Hello friends, good evening. I welcome you all to another edition of Daily News Analysis. So in this particular edition, we are going to discuss some very important articles that were featured in the Hindu and Indian Express newspapers. Particularly in the explain section, which is important from the perspective of prelims, we are going to discuss 4 important articles. The first one being the celebration of 11th International Yoga Day. So we are going to discuss some history of it, where yoga originated. Obviously, it is an Indian heritage, Indian culture, part of Indian culture, and part of India's own tapestry of humanity as well. The second important article that we are going to discuss is about quantum cybersecurity, particularly the developments in that regard of quantum communication, quantum key distribution. We are going to discuss some important facts regarding those developments in that particular article. The third one important article that we are going to discuss is about HAL winning a bid to build SSLVs. So very important from the perspective of science and technology part, particularly space and space related developments are always asked in that regard in prelims. Another important article that we are going to discuss is about King Cobra. So in recent times we have seen the efforts of reintroducing King Cobra into the Madhya Pradesh jungles, particularly Madhya Pradesh habitat. But essentially that particular project, what are the repercussions of that project, what are the hurdles? Along with it, we are going to discuss some very interesting facts about the habitat, the food habits of King Cobra as well. So stay tuned. In the decoded section, we are going to discuss one very important article that is part of Indian Express explain page called nuclear non-proliferation. We are going to in particular discuss NPT and how the world can still go for nuclear non-proliferation. So stay tuned for that particular article as well. So the first important article that we are going to discuss is about 11th International Yoga Day. So celebration, we have recently celebrated today itself 11th International Yoga Day. So the theme of this year's Yoga Day is Yoga for One Earth, One Health. See, yoga in particular is emerging as a major soft power tool for India. So essentially it is, as I earlier said, it is part of India's tapestry of humanity to certain extent. So essentially the world has accepted 21st June as International Day of Yoga. So it was observed every year on 21st June. Objective obviously to highlight the benefits associated with yoga, from physical, mental to spiritual benefits and spiritual well-being of people. Why 21st June? But that is also important fact here. See, it marks the summer solstice, the longest day in the northern hemisphere, considered spiritually significant in yogic traditions. So that's why the 21st June has been chosen as a International Yoga Day. So, but when did it got international recognition? See, it was proposed by India at the 69th UN General Assembly in 2014. First celebration happened in 2015 with the theme Yoga for Harmony and Place. UNESCO in 2016 listed yoga as intangible cultural heritage of humanity. So this fact here is also important, particularly from the perspective of prelims. See, WHO also has recognized yoga as a tool to address NCDs, non-communicable diseases, and included it in Global Action Plan of 2018 to 2030. So it can have tremendous health, mental health particularly benefits as well. India since 2015 declared yoga as a priority sports discipline as well. So in India, yoga has been actually declared on priority as a sports discipline since 2015. So, but what exactly is the meaning of yoga? See, it derived from Sanskrit word yuj. What is the meaning of yuj? To unite. So it symbolizes the integration of mind and body. Very important. Yoga symbolizes yuj, that is to unite. To unite what? To unite someone's mind and body. So it is a sweet combination or sweet integration of mind and body. So historical roots. See, India means yoga in particular is part of India's cultural civilization. It traces back to the Indus Valley civilization. Pashupati seal in particular, you must have seen the insignia, that Pashupati seal. So that Pashupati seal in particular is, is said to be means sat in that yogic mudra, yogic position. So it can have the yoga can have the origins in Indus Valley civilization as well. Apart from that, it recognized as one of the 6 classical schools of Indian philosophy. So this fact is also important, particularly from the perspective of culture. It is mentioned in the Vedas as well and systematized in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which is around 2nd century BCE. So by the way, what are the 6 darshanas apart from yoga? There is Vaisheshik given by Kanad, there is a Nyaya given by Gautam, there is yoga obviously given by Patanjali, then there is a Sankhya given by Kapil, then there is a Vedant given by Vedvyas, and then there is a Mimamsa, there is given by Jaimini. Mimamsa in particular, you have Uttar Mimamsa and Purva Mimamsa as well. So just go through the darshan system briefly. You may get the question on darshanas as well. So essentially, yoga by Patanjali is one of the schools of Indian philosophy. So that is the most important thing here. See, what is the significance of celebrating this International Day of Yoga, by the way? As I said, it promotes the health benefits associated with yoga. It raises global awareness, along with it preserves our own cultural heritage. It gives India the soft power edge. It fosters global unity, and it has got a global sort of recognition now. It has recognized by UN, WHO and UNESCO, as I earlier said. It encourages healthy living. So you must have seen, many of you are also doing yoga, and I hope you started today's day with yoga itself. But it should not be restricted to just one day. Actually, include yoga in your daily lifestyle. It can have tremendous benefits, tremendous health benefits particularly. So go through the contemporary relevance as well. Essentially, it supports holistic well-being, mental focus is there, and it will help in managing stress, particularly in the current lifestyles. Plays key role in psychosocial rehabilitation. It has various mudras as well. For example, there is Hatha, there is Ashtang, there is Iyengar yoga. So lot of the times, these mudras and these traditions are also gaining ground in this gym and yoga culture. So most of you must have seen the combination between gym and yoga. So most of the time, we are adopting yoga in our daily lifestyle. At the same time, it is becoming a style statement as well. So do yoga daily. That's my sincere opinion for all of you. Particularly, apart from a celebration of the yoga day, what the Indian government has done, it has M Yoga app particularly, vocational courses in yoga, and there is Fit India movement, which includes obviously yoga as a healthy lifestyle. So this is a practice question for you. Just comment your answer in the comment section. Very easy question here. So the next important article that we are going to discuss is about quantum cybersecurity. See, this particular article is part of the Hindu's editorial page. So essentially, the development in that regard is in the sphere of quantum communication, particularly quantum key distribution. See, most of the time it is said that quantum developments will also challenge India's or even world's cybersecurity initiatives particularly. So it can challenge cybersecurity, but at the same time, quantum itself is giving the solution. So you have the quantum key distribution in that regard. So essentially what has happened is, scientists from IIT Delhi particularly and DRDO recently demonstrated quantum key distribution scheme through 1 kilometer of free space channel. Such a technology allows 2 individuals or stations located a kilometer apart to access messages they send to each other securely, particularly. By the way, how does it work? But before going, I am not going to discuss what exactly quantum key distribution. We have already covered in our earlier editions of daily news analysis in detail what exactly is the quantum key distribution mean. We are going to actually briefly go through many important quantum related developments in this regard. So essentially, but how does it work, we are going to see. So it essentially, if an eavesdropper, for example, listener is trying to intercept any message, instantaneous changes in the keys to the individual used to decrypt the messages will reveal the channel has been compromised, and in a way that the eavesdropper cannot prevent. So essentially, it gives immediate it suggests instantaneous changes in the keys at the same time, so that that listener eavesdropper may not be able to respond that fast to those changes. So, that way we will have the secure communication. Most of the time, it is very significant development. It if scaled up, it can include satellites. The technology could allow stations anywhere in India to exchange information through quantum network without fear of being compromised. So, most of the time national security is emerging as a major area of concern for all the countries. We have seen lot of wars, and most of the times, espionage, intelligence gathering is often done through the communication systems as well. So, quantum key distribution can give the solution in that regard. Quantum computers can, at least on paper, solve problems currently out of reach of the most conventional supercomputers. So, that we know. Essentially, we have seen a lot of quantum computer related developments, quantum chips in recent times, from Majorana chip to, there is a Google's chip as well. So, quantum communications, we are not going to go into those quantum chips related details. We have already covered that in earlier editions of DNA. Then quantum communication, as I said, quantum communication, it leverages the principles of quantum physics such as superposition, entanglement to enable ultra secure communication systems. Unlike classical methods which are vulnerable to attacks, especially by future quantum computers, quantum communication ensures security even in presence of potential eavesdroppers. So, essentially, as I said, quantum communication through quantum key distribution in particular, and utilizing the quantum phenomena like superposition and entanglement gives us good solution for secure communication. So, these are some key concepts here. Quantum key distribution, it enables two parties to securely share a secret key and unconditional security. Any interception attempt alters the system. See, BB84 E91 protocols are associated with quantum key distribution. Just go through that briefly. Essentially, you do not have to know in detail what exactly is these protocol, BB84 and E91. Just remember, many times UPSC may ask such questions, what these terms are related to. For example, BB84, E91 protocols related to quantum key distribution. Remember that particular fact. What exactly is a quantum teleportation, by the way? It allows the transfer of quantum states between locations using entangled particles without moving the physical particles themselves. So, essentially it utilizes the entanglement phenomena effectively. Quantum teleportation, it has not been observed at a larger scale yet. Okay, it is just has been theorized on a quantum state. So, there is a quantum cryptography, quantum channel coding and quantum networks as well. So as I said, quantum networks in particular connects multiple users or nodes to enable secure communication, distributed quantum computing, teleportation and multi-party communication at the same time. So, we have developments in that regard as well. So, just go through quantum cryptography. See, QKD, essentially quantum key distribution, is a key application of quantum cryptography. Remember that. So, this is about the developments itself. We are going to discuss very important few points about national quantum mission. See, India has its own national quantum mission. India has its own national supercomputing mission. Essentially, there are these are some certain focus areas so that we can have the edge when it comes to the latest developments in those fields. See, the National Quantum Mission NQM particularly launched in 23-24 to 2030-31. So, for that time period, it has been launched. It aims to establish India as a global leader in quantum technologies. What is the outlay? That is also important. It has an outlay of 6,003.65 crore. So, around 6,000 crore has been allocated for this particular mission. So, what is the mission timeline? 2030-24 to 23-24 to 2030-31. Remember that particular fact. So, these are some key objectives. You may be asked the question directly on this particular mission. You have quantum computing developments. So, what is the primary sort of goal here? To build quantum computers with 20 to 50 qubits in 3 years, 50 to 100 qubits in 5 years and up to 1000 qubits in 8 years using platforms like superconducting and photonic systems. So, superconductivity is another phenomena. We are also investing, our own scientists are also researching on superconductivity, but we haven't got we haven't got that much of a solid material which we can call a superconductor yet at a room temperature particularly. Satellite based quantum communication enables secure quantum communication between two ground stations over 2000 km within India with scope for international expansion. So, essentially satellite based quantum communication is part of NQM as well. quantum key distribution is also part. See, essentially it implements intercity quantum secured communication across 2000 kilometers using trusted nodes and WDM over existing optical fiber networks. So, multi-node quantum networks, we are going to develop multi-node quantum networks under NQM as well. So, we are also going to develop quantum sensing and clocks, quantum clocks in particular, which can be ultra sensitive devices such as magnetometers or gravity sensors, atomic clocks. So, essentially we can use these clocks effectively in those machineries as well. Quantum materials and devices, we can develop some quantum materials and devices under that mission. It can have for example qubit, single photon sources and quantum lasers at the same time. Also thematic hubs, we are going to develop thematic hubs under the NQM mission. Specialized hubs will be established, each focusing on dedicated quantum domain to coordinate particularly R&D in innovation in their respective areas. So, quantum key quantum domains and through 4 thematic hubs. So, what are those 4 thematic hubs? There is quantum computing, there is quantum communication, quantum materials and devices and quantum sensing and metrology in particularly. So, these are 4 thematic hubs of National Computing Mission. Just remember that particular thing here. But despite all the efforts, systematic issues still persist. What are those systematic issues highlighted in that particular article? Slow fund disbursement is one issue, that is always an issue. Most of the time bureaucratic hurdles are foremost in that regard. Lack of single window clearance, excessive documentation is another issue. See, most of the time the fund dispersal needs to happen very fast, but we all know the bureaucratic red tapeism in that regard. Foreign dependency for key hardware like cryostats and sensors is observed. Then there is insufficient government pay and insecure short term contracts, which acts as a deterrent for talent essentially, because outside particularly they are getting paid more. Those scientists, those brilliant minds can go outside and do the research on those particular fields. Comparatively low investment, India's commitment is far below US and China, which is almost 5 times and 20 times higher. Okay. So, China in particular is investing heavily in development of quantum computing. In recent times we have seen so many developments in China when it comes to quantum computers. So, this is very basic of quantum computing, just go through that briefly, important from the perspective of prelims as well as mains. As I said, superposition, entanglement, particularly understanding the concept here is really important. Then there is a quantum interference, there is quantum measurement. Essentially quantum measurement, quantum state is measured, it collapses to a definite value of 0 and 1, okay, either 0 or either 1. This step is crucial for extracting meaningful results from quantum computation. So, essentially to a definite value. So, that is the case. In particularly quantum measurement does happen in that particular value. So, essentially this is the comparison chart between quantum computing and classical computing. Very important, very classic sort of difference has been given here. Go through that briefly as well. So, these are some applications of quantum computing, from finance to quantum safe cryptography, supply chain management, drug discovery, material sciences, AI and climate modeling as well. So, quantum computing can help in all these spheres. So, essentially but there are some pros and cons as well, just go through that briefly as well. See, particularly when it comes to cons, high cost and integration difficulties observed when it comes to quantum computers. So, most of the time limited applicability is also observed. Why? Because there it is the high cost associated with it. But when it comes to pros, it can give it can have tremendous impact when it comes to energy efficiency, cryptographic content, impact and advanced simulation, particularly superior problem solving capacity. We can have our own powerful weather prediction model through quantum computing and quantum computers in that regard. So, there are a lot of pros, but currently cons outweighs pros when it comes to quantum computing, because we have to invest heavily, and that is why once we achieve that quantum supremacy, until that point we have to actually invest heavily for achieving for going to that point. So, essentially that is why we have our own mission, and but again the private investment is something India also has to worry about. This is the practice question for you, just comment your answer in the comment section. So the third important article that we are going to discuss is about HAL winning bid to build small satellite launch vehicles after take transfer. So essentially, this particular article here is important from the perspective of developments in space. So what is happening in this regard is small satellite launch vehicle particularly is very affordable launch vehicle developed by ISRO, which is emerging as a major source of income for ISRO. At the same time, ISRO cannot launch each and every SSLV itself. So it has to do the technology transfer to the rightful sort of bidder, and that bidder is currently HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. It has won the bid to build SSLV, and technology transfer will take place in next 2 years. HAL must manufacture 2 SSLVs end to end, following the procedures ISRO used during 3 developmental flights. From August 27, HAL will independently manufacture and commercially launch SSLVs. HAL can modify the SSLV design and change component supplier post transfer. So essentially that is a huge step for ISRO. It is going to actually do the technology transfer to HAL in that regard. So what is the project cost and what are the production goals, by the way? HAL, as I said, it win with a bid of almost 500 crores. After the transfer period, HAL plans to produce 6 to 12 SSLVs per year. Ownership and policy conditions: minimum 51% Indian ownership is mandatory in the manufacturing of the company. Broader role of HAL: HAL is also part of consortium selected to privately manufacture PSLV, India's workhorse launch vehicle. So essentially, HAL is involved in PSLV developments as well. NSIL's roles and launch plan. What exactly is the NSIL, by the way? NSIL, in space, both these agencies are associated with mostly the commercialization of space technology in India particularly. They are helping ISRO to actually privatize our own space sector. So, New India Space Limited will conduct 15 SSLV launches to tap domestic small satellite market, attract international customers. See, most of the time there is a huge scope for increasing our space economy, which is around just 6 to 7% of the total pull, by the way. So we have to increase that, because there is a scope for space economy in India to develop. So in a way, NSIL in that regard is also focusing on actually launching the SSLVs in coming times. The first NSIL SSLV launch is scheduled for Q4 26, followed by 1 launch per month. Okay. So in space initiatives and early launches is also important in that regard. What exactly is the InSpace has done here? InSpace plans 2 SSLV launches before HAL begins its rollout. Its purpose is to carry small private sector payloads. The launch has been planned for October 25 and February 26. So essentially, these launches will include SMILE, SSLV module in LEO orbit, LEO experiment, SMILE similar to POEM on PSLV for onboard experiments. So just remember these sort of names, particularly launch names, so that you can actually have the hints when it comes to questions in prelims in that regard. So what is the strategic vision here, by the way? India aims to become global hub for small satellite launches. Essentially, it supports infrastructure, includes it in that regard spaceport at Kulakshetrapattanam for small launch vehicles, a launch vehicle manufacturing cluster in Tamil Nadu as well. Advantages for global clients: low cost, flexible scheduling and strong launch infrastructure. So these are 3 advantages given by India's SSLV program. So that's why it is attractive for global customers as well. So this is what is the news about. So HAL is going to build SSLV essentially, and technologies transfer is going to happen. So essentially, ISRO in coming years can focus more on some interplanetary missions which are of huge importance to India's own space developments. So in that regard, the privatization of space and the developments in this regard, when it comes to NSIL and InSpace, are also very important. Just go through what exactly is the NSIL and InSpace as well. 1 or 2 years back, though that restructuring has happened in 22-23 actually. So essentially, from that point onwards, these bodies are in news, NSIL, InSpace. Go through what exactly are these bodies, whether these are a special purpose vehicle or whether these are actually PSUs. So just go through that briefly on your own. So What is the difference between PSLV and SSLV, by the way? So, this chart actually explains the difference between PSLV and SSLV. Important here from the perspective of prelims. See, PSLV has 4 stages. It is solid, liquid, solid, liquid. While SSLV has 3 stages, 3 solid stages and liquid based VTM. Okay. So, but look at payload capacity up to 1750 kg to 600 kilometer, that can reach GTO. But SSLV has 10 to 500 kg to 500 kilometers, 10 to 500 kilograms to 500 kilometer low Earth orbit. So, just remember the payload capacity here. So, payload capacity for SSLV is 10 to 500 kilometers to a low Earth orbit, while PSLV can take up to 17,500 kg to 600 kilometers SSO, sun synchronous orbit in particularly, and it can reach GTO as well. So, essentially some key missions associated with PSLV include Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, Astrosat, Navik, Exposat, Chandrayaan 1 particularly, EOS 7, Janus 1, Azadi Sat 2 are associated with SSLV. See, SSLV is for commercial purposes. So, essentially most of the time there is a huge demand for small satellite launches by international companies, international organizations. So, there is a huge gap in that regard, and ISRO's SSLV in that regard is considered one of the foremost vehicle to launch such small satellites. So, that is why development in that regard is very vital. So, essentially you can see the cost here, higher operational cost. Obviously, PSLV has higher operational cost, while SSLV has lower cost, suitable for budget launches. So, as I said, SSLV is more suitable for budget launches. So, launch infrastructure, PSLV in particular requires extensive launch setup, while SSLV requires minimal infrastructure. So, just remember some of these differences, very important, particularly from the perspective of prelims. This is a practice question for you, just comment your answer in the comment section. So, the next important article that we are going to discuss is about King Cobra. So, what has happened here is MPCM, he has a wish of reintroducing, or not reintroducing, or rather introducing King Cobra to the Madhya Pradesh forest or jungles, but his plan hinged on counting snakes or rearing king cobras in situ habitat in MP. But most of the time, recent times we have seen the one king cobra dying after the reintroduction into the Madhya Pradesh jungles. So, what are the issues, or what is the problem for this particular species introduction in MP? At the same time, we must know from the perspective of prelims particularly, what exactly is the IUCN status of king cobra, or what are the unique habits that king cobra possesses, what is its eating habit particularly, and some important, very interesting stuff when it comes to this largest venomous snake in the world. So, essentially it is part of, as I said, ecology and environment part of GS3. So, what is the CM's proposal? CM of MP proposed reintroducing king cobras in MP to control venomous snake populations, conducting a state-wise snake census to assess the population of venomous species. So, what has happened is, most of the time snake bite is emerging as a major issue for many states. So, that is associated with increasing number of venomous snakes, particularly in MP. So, what the MPCM wanted to do here is reintroducing king cobras. See, most of the time king cobras eating habit is very interesting. It only eats, or mostly eats, the other snakes. So, in that regard, particularly, king cobra can actually control the venomous snake population. So, that is the original purpose behind reintroduction of the king cobra into the Madhya Pradesh. But as I said, particularly that one king cobra has died in recent, that was a news just 2 days back. As I said, snake bite deaths is one of the major issue here. So, why the plan is unfeasible, but what is the issue in this particular plan? See, no scientific protocol exists globally for counting wild snakes. So, that is one of the foremost thing here, how you are going to count the wild snakes. Such a census is considered infeasible and unnecessary for conservation purposes. So, nobody understand the purpose of the snake count here particularly. See, habitat mismatch is another issue. Most of the time, king cobras prefer humid, dense forests with swamps and undergrowths found in Western Ghats, Northeast India, Terai Belt and Mangrove Coast and Andamans. So, most of the times, very dense jungle, swamps is preferred habitat for king cobra. But the Madhya Pradesh dry deciduous forests lack the dense vegetation and perennial water source. So, that is why it is not a natural habitat for king cobra. At the same time, there are no confirmed historical record of king cobra's presence in MP. That is another important fact here. No confirmed presence of king cobra has been found, has been observed. There is no record of king cobra's presence in MP. So, you know, in a way, the reintroduction itself is in question. So, essentially, you are introducing a new species per se into the new habitat. It is always problematic and it can create issues. So, there is a genetic concern and concerns and species mismatch as well. So, according to the recent taxonomic update of 21-23, king cobras were earlier considered one species. This particular fact is really important here. Note down, important from the perspective of prelims. So, earlier king cobras were considered as a one species, Ophioophagus hana, but now it has been divided into 4 lineages. One is a distinct species, Ophioophagus kalinga, endemic to Western Ghats, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Goa and Maharashtra. So, essentially, this is the one distinct species out of those 4 lineages. So, in India, we have Ophioophagus kalinga, which is majorly endemic to Western Ghats. Western Ghats, particularly Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Goa and Maharashtra. A king cobra brought to Bhopal's Van Vihar Zoo from Karnataka's Mangalore Zoo in exchange for a tiger died in enclosure on June 8. As I said, you know, recently we have seen the death of the king cobra in that regard. There is an ecological risk involved as well. Introducing Western Ghats lineages to MP may lead to hybridization with other populations. Such translocations violate conservation principles and risk genetic dilution. So, that is another concern here. Conservation and breeding constraints are also observed, by the way. Western Ghats king cobras live in a highly threatened and limited habitats. Reintroduction effort must ensure no interspecies hybridization. One, only locally appropriate lineages are used. That is second important concern we have to take care of. Breeding in captivity is difficult. They build nest and need specific conditions. So, this fact is also important. See, interestingly, king cobra is the only species of snakes which builds nest to actually protects its young. So, you can imagine the unique habitat it must possess so that it can build the nest. So, most of the time this is the only species of snake which builds nests for its eggs. Particularly expert opinions, world particularly WIS scientists, king cobras avoid humans, so their effect on venomous snake populations would take decades to materialize. That is also true. So, essentially wildlife experts also states that no state has surplus king cobras. Reintroduction is ecologically unsound as well. So, it is not like any state has surplus king cobras, so that you know reintroduction is not feasible in that regard. Snake Hub app founder particularly said Northeast India would be a more appropriate source if reintroduction were attempted. Northeast India, due to its dense jungle, swamps and habitats related to that, can be a major more appropriate sort of habitat for reintroduction of king cobra particularly. So, this particular slide here addresses the very basics of king cobra. This is important from the perspective of prelims. So, as I said, king cobra is world's longest venomous snake and can grow to 15 feet in length. So, some species of this particular species can grow to 15 feet in length as well, up to 15 feet. So, it is huge snake. So, it is the longest particularly venomous snake in the world. Scientific classification until 1836, first classified as Ophioophagus hana by Danish naturalist Theodor Cantor. But what is the update now? Recent taxonomic update of 21-23, it has 4 distinct species now based on geography. So, essentially, but let us see what is the status, IUCN status, important from the perspective of prelims, vulnerable. Just note down these particular facts, and when it comes to site, it has been listed in appendix 2. So, by the way, what are the 4 distinct species, by the way, which have been observed to exist according to the recent taxonomic data? There is Ophioophagus hana, which is found in the Pakistan to eastern China, Southeast Asia particularly, and it is called northern king cobra, Ophiophagus bungarus, Sunda king cobra, which is generally found in Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines. There is Ophiophagus kalinga, which is endemic to western Ghats of India, uh, particularly, and there is Ophiophagus salvatana, which is Luzon king cobra, Luzon Islands and Philippines. It is found majorly in Philippines. So, essentially these are the 4 major distinct species of king cobra currently, and all these are vulnerable, by the way. Remember that particular fact. All these subspecies of king cobra are vulnerable under IUCN status. So, you can see it is a diurnal, active during the day. Diet, it feeds mainly on other snakes, for example rat snakes, dhamans and cobras. So, it has very special ability to actually counter the venom of venomous snakes while it eats it. So, essentially that is why MP government is trying to reintroduce king cobras in its own jungles, but that is highly infeasible effort. Unique breeding trait, the only snake species that builds and guards a nest until hatching. This important fact is also important. Remember from the perspective of prelims. Scientific importance, venom used in developing pain relief drugs such as cobroxine and niloxine. So, it has the benefits in medicine as well. The venom in particular of king cobra has benefits in that regard. So, this is the very important practice question for you. Comment your answer in the comment section. Very important and very interesting article, by the way. So, in the decoded section, we are going to discuss, or we are going to take a deep dive into nuclear non-proliferation. See, most of the time we have seen the recent developments between Israel and Iran conflict. The conflict is almost more than a week old now, and we are going to see so many more developments in that regard. We are going to actually observe whether the conflict stops or it further conflagrates with the involvement of US. Currently, the Trump administration has given 2 weeks for the diplomacy to persist in that regard, and hopefully we can get the solution. In the meantime, we have seen the Indian government also having actually taking out its own citizens from Iran through Operation Sindhu, or from Israel as well. So, essentially those efforts are ongoing, but why exactly the Israel attacked Iran, that is also important, and that we have discussed earlier in our daily news analysis edition. At the same time, now the issue is nuclear non-proliferation. The Iran particularly has actually now threatened to withdraw itself from NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So, what exactly is this treaty, and what exactly does is also important from the perspective of mains now. Nuclear non-proliferation, always important sort of area. See, from the perspective of GS2 as well as GS3 particularly, most of the time you may get a question on India's own position in that regard. At the same time, India's no first use policy of nuclear weapons is often area of interest for UPSC as well. So, let us dive into it. But what exactly is NPT? It is a treaty which was signed in 1968 and it entered into force in 1970, aimed at preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and technology. Very important, it was signed way back in 1968 and came into force in 1970 for what? To prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and promoting a cooperation in the peaceful use of nuclear energy as well as a disarmament. So, but what is the catch here? NPT defines a nuclear weapon state as one that had manufactured and tested a nuclear explosive device before January 1, 1967. So, that is the problem for India. So, it has the cutoff date. Before that date, those countries who have tested nuclear weapon or nuclear device are only recognized as a nuclear weapon state. So, that is why most of the time US, UK, France, Soviet Union at that point of time, now Russia and China are considered as a nuclear weapon state because they have tested the nuclear weapons before that date, 1 January 1967. So, essentially they are permitted to retain a nuclear weapon. But given India lives in a hostile neighborhood and it has to be ready for the two-front war, this particular cutoff date became a problem for India, because for the first time India tested nuclear weapon in 1974. So, you must be knowing the operation name and developments in that regard. So we are not going to go into those details. But what is the other provisions in NPT? By the way, all other signatories must renounce nuclear arms, and those non-nuclear states are required to submit detailed reports and allow IAEA inspections to ensure nuclear materials are not diverted for military use. So there is actually provision of IAEA inspections in that regard as well. International Atomic Energy Agency, by the way, and we have covered that agency in detail in our edition as well. So signatory states, currently NPT has 191 signatory states. However, several countries have not signed the NPT, including India, Pakistan and Israel. North Korea signed up in 1985 but withdrew in 2003. So currently these are the states who are actually nuclear weapon states, but they are not recognized under NPT. So, but what is the case of Iran? When it comes to Iran, Iran signed a nuclear non-proliferation treaty way back in 1970. It has been accused by the IAS Board of Governors in recent times of breaching its non-proliferation obligation. Since 2019, Iran has allegedly failed to fully cooperate by not disclosing undeclared nuclear materials and activity at several sites, violating its commitment to transparency and safeguards. So, lot of the times the assessment of IAEA is important in that regard. So, nuclear, that inspection by IAEA has given the indication that Iran is breaching the obligations under NPT. So essentially, withdrawal from the treaty under Article 10 of the NPT, a country may withdraw if it believes extraordinary events have threatened its supreme national interest. So there is a provision for withdrawal from the treaty. Article 10 of NPT gives the power of withdrawal to the party in case in case of extraordinary events which threatened supreme national interests. So essentially, there is a provision. So essentially, Iran is now threatening to invoke Article 10 in that regard. What happens if Iran leaves NPT is another important issue. See, end of IAEA inspection is one concern here. IAEA inspectors particularly averaged 1.4 nuclear site visits a day last year in Iran. Such success would end if Iran withdraws. So there is no inspection in that regard, and Iran may refuse to cooperate with IAEA in that regard. Precedent risk. It could encourage other countries to exit the treaty, weakening the global non-proliferation regime. So this can have a domino effect on other countries as well. It can have a potential breakout. While withdrawal doesn't confirm weapon development, it increases suspicion and reduces international oversight. So that can be another possibility. But despite this, what is the India's stance on NPT? India has refused to sign the NPT since its inception in 1968, citing its discriminatory nature. As I said earlier, that cutoff date is always discriminatory. India maintains it cannot join the NPT as a non-nuclear weapon state, which would require giving up its nuclear arsenal. So as I said, India being living in a nuclear sort of nuclear in the region adjacent to nuclear adversary like China, so it cannot give up its nuclear weapons now. So India advocates for a universal non-discriminatory framework, rejecting the NPT's division between nuclear weapon and non-nuclear weapon states. So it rejects the division between nuclear and non-nuclear weapon states. That is India's official stance. Responsible nuclear power. India is a responsible nuclear power. It has declared no first use policy, and oftentimes there is this debate whether India should have or whether India should revisit the no first use policy or not. Strong nuclear safety and non-proliferation measures have been taken up by India. A credible minimum deterrence doctrine India follows. So all these actually points indicate India is responsible nuclear power. Civil nuclear cooperation. India was granted a waiver by Nuclear Suppliers Group in 2008, allowing it to engage in civil nuclear trade despite not being part of NPT signatory. Following this, India-US Civil Nuclear Agreement. So it broke the taboo in that regard after the signing of India-US Civil Nuclear Agreement in 2008 particularly. So that was the position of India when it comes to NPT. But what are the efforts towards non-proliferation? globally now. So, as I said, very important, you may get the mains question on nuclear non-proliferation. So, there are treaties and agreement. First and foremost, there is a nuclear non-proliferation treaty. There is a comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty, CTBT. It prohibits all nuclear test explosions. Although widely supported, it is not yet in force due to lack of ratification by key countries. So, essentially, it hasn't been enforced yet. There is a treaty on prohibition of nuclear weapons as well, the first legally binding international agreement to comprehensively ban nuclear weapons. India hasn't signed that as well. There is international institutions and frameworks involved in the promotion of nuclear non-proliferation. Particularly, there is International Atomic Energy Agency through its enforcement actions and safeguard measurements. Then there is a nuclear suppliers group, a group of nuclear supplier countries that seek to prevent nuclear exports to weapons purposes through its guidelines. There are regional initiatives as well, nuclear weapon free zones, treaties like Late Loco, Latin America. Then there is a Pelindaba in Africa and Rarotonga in South Pacific, etc. Legally binds region to nuclear weapon, prohibit nuclear weapons. So, you can mention some of these names, by the way. Then there is a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, Iran nuclear deal of 2015. In Trump's first term in 2018, he withdrew from the treaty, and now the diplomacy is taking its own turn, so that US in particular may have its new treaty with Iran now. So, let us hope that diplomacy works. So, but you must note down some of these initiatives. I have actually curated only few important initiatives that you can use in your answers. So, just note down these important initiatives for nuclear non-proliferation. So, in conclusion, we can say the significant progress has been made for nuclear non-proliferation, but there are challenges like North Korea's nuclear program or Iran's NPT tensions in recent times, and the modernization of nuclear arsenal by major powers. Essentially, China is engaged currently in the modernization of nuclear arsenal, of its own nuclear arsenal, but we don't know how many nuclear arsenals does China currently possesses. There is a lot of secrets in that regard. It highlights the need for sustained and inclusive global efforts to strengthen nuclear non-proliferation and promote disarmament. So, the world has to go towards nuclear non-proliferation. Particularly, it has to promote nuclear disarmament, so that it can avoid the nuclear winter in coming times. So, this is the practice question for you, very interesting question. So, that is it from my side. And stay tuned for another edition of Daily News Analysis. Thank you.